So this is Mike Foran. This is the driver from Gloucester that is accident-free for 41 years. And here's a few questions for Mike to answer. So the first question, Mike, how do you prepare yourself in the mornings before your duty ahead?
Right, so I think what you really need to do is have a good night's sleep. I think that's very important. Come in, I usually get a drink before I check my bus over, and there's usually a bit of banter around the office, which is really nice. Talking to the guys, check the bus up, and just be relaxed about the whole thing, which is kind of what I do every day, to be honest with you, and it's worked for me, and I don't see why it shouldn't work for anyone else.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, how do you familiarise yourself on the routes with risks? So it might be that you notice something that's there all the time. How do you familiarise yourself with these things?
Well, when you're driving around, you flag these things up, and obviously when you're driving, you see there might be a set of traffic lights, been put up temporary traffic lights when you're driving, which can be a bit of, you think, well, crikey, there's some traffic lights there, and you might not even know about it. This just can be done sort of almost instantaneously, and you drive around a bit further, and you think, crikey, there's some bollards there. They weren't there the last time. Then you go on a bit further, and you get all these things as you're driving along, and you memorise this stuff because it hasn't been there before. Yeah, it's quite something to take in. But the most of all and important thing is that you relax when you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need to be, relaxed behind the wheel, because if you're stressed out with anything, you're going to have a problem. It's a big factor.
Perfect.
Being relaxed behind the wheel.
Yes, definitely. How do you approach a sticky situation? So it might be that a motorist has overshot some cars or hasn't really seen you coming and there's not room. How do you approach these situations?
Right, so if you're driving and you see anything untoward going on towards in front of you, you need to be well back from the traffic. Never drive too close. Keep a safe distance between, because you need an all-round observation. I think that's very important. And generally looking at what's on either side of the road. Always have good round. I've always said this before. Sit high up in the cab. For me, is a big thing. Checking your mirrors. Always do that. A-class number one. And probably the big thing. Don't take chances.
Mm-hmm.
Take opportunities. That's fine.
Yeah.
Don't take chances.
Perfect. Yes.
Just sit back.
Cool. So, how do you anticipate what the average motorist is going to do?
Yeah. Well, that's a big one, isn't it?
A big one, yes.
We all knew that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. So I think it's a big thing. Just coming up to junctions and looking at the person and making sure they're looking at you. If they're not looking at you, then they probably haven't seen you. They're looking somewhere else or whatever. So don't take it for granted. They're going to do what you think they're going to do and what they're supposed to, because that very rarely happens. They do something completely different.
Yes.
And then you're in a sticky situation. It doesn't matter whether it's their fault or your fault. There's going to be a collision, an untoward something, an RTA. You don't want that. So just sit back, just stop, and don't get involved. That's what I was thinking, because all this paperwork you've got to do on an accident, it doesn't look good for the company.
No.
It doesn't matter whose fault it is. Stand back from it.
Certainly. How do your driving styles change when the weather conditions change?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I do drive pretty steady anyway, but then you've got to be of that added factor. Could be rain, snow, ice. So you're looking out for all this stuff, and this is extra especially important that when people are driving around you, you need to be aware that bicycles, people crossing over the road, ice, all those things. Fog's a big thing. Make sure you got your fog lights on the back if there's any fog.
Yeah,
that's a big thing.
Certainly.
You want to leave that, leave it on. When you're
no, not to use your vehicle.
They can see the vehicle because people run into the back, and we have a lot of accidents where people run into the back.
Yeah, certain. A big one in Gloucester at the moment is accidents in the depot. And why do you think there are so many accidents in the depot?
Well, that's carelessness, most of that.
Yeah.
It's down to people not being observant and not really taking on board. We got some tight manoeuvring spaces down there.
Yeah.
And I would say with the way the buses are parked pretty close together, and you've got to be really steady. If you're not sure, get someone to come out. Get a supervisor, leading driver to come out and help you. I always think that. Don't just think, oh, I can do that. Take off at a shot, because that's when the damage happens.
Certainly.
And have an all-round observation again. Very important. Before you get in the bus, have a look around.
Yeah.
See where the buses are. See who's in a bus. I think that's important.
Yes, definitely.
That's another. Well, there's lots of important things, on this job, and flagging them up is a good thing.
And a bit of a joint question here. So, how do you feel working for Stagecoach and being that person that's not had an accident for 41 years?
Yeah.
And if you had some really good tips for the new or less experienced drivers in Stagecoach, and what would they be?
Right. So I was always thought that when I first come on this job, I've talked to people that were on this job well before me, pre-war people. So talking to people back in the 1930s that had done this job, and then came back onto this job after they'd been in the war, and they were passing this knowledge on to me, which was great. And I thought to myself, you feel sort of in awe of them, really. And looking at those people, because lots of people there didn't have accidents. There was people not like myself, but obviously there was people that didn't have accidents, and they've been there like 35 years, maybe not quite as long as me, because I thought 35 years was a long time.
Yeah.
And they've been there 35 years, and I've been there
wow.
a bit longer. Yeah, good one. So, working for Stagecoach, yeah, I've worked for them now, yeah, ever since they've been around, and that's 41 years. If you like to add that on with Bristol Omnibus and Cheltenham and Gloucester,
Yeah.
it's all the same kind of thing, same kind of driving, and they're great. Yeah, a great company. Procedure-wise, run a bit like the military, and I was in the military, so I was in the Gloucestershire Regiment, which was fantastic, and a part of that. Yeah, as long as you follow protocol and be observant, you're not going to go wrong. That's one of the main factors. I think yeah, very enjoyable. So if they want to pass on any information, if anybody wants to ask me anything, I'm quite prepared to talk to them about it. It's not a big deal.
No.
It's what I've learned.
It's good to pass on information.
Information is
Especially
very good. It's
learning
all about
loads.
communication. We need a lot more of that. People, they don't do it, do they? So it's a big factor as well.
And finally, are you proud to serve Stagecoach in the vehicles provided? And what do you think about Gloucester potentially getting new buses to make Gloucester a bit more loving, caring?
Step forward. Boris Johnson, he's putting all this money on the table now to improve our services. Good man. If he does what he says, great. If he's doing what he's chopping up about, lovely. I'm looking forward to that. Let's have a bit of it.
Perfect.
Get some new routes back.
Perfect.
All the routes we've lost.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Mike.
Well, thank you.
And let's hope that the accidents stay longer and longer.
Let's hope it all goes well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Pass on the information.
Thank you very much.